Hello, my name is Samuel Ivande, the conservation biologist and an ornithologist at the AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute at APLORI. At APLORI, I also serve as the scientific director, and that means that I help to coordinate the MSc Conservation Biology program at APLORI and also to coordinate ongoing research at the Institute. I am delighted at the opportunity to talk to you this morning about APLORI's capacity building work for ornithology and conservation science in West Africa. It indeed has been 20 years of this capacity building work, and I am quite excited to talk about all of this journey with you today. So, like most of Africa, West Africa also has a rich biodiversity. Going across the lengths and breadths of the region, you would encounter diverse habitats with diverse plants and animals, from large mammals to really interesting birds. West Africa has it all. But West Africa also has a large and rapidly growing population. And this means that this growing population continues to threaten biodiversity and the environment. Even legitimate needs to meet fuel wood demands and also for agriculture and food production, all of this continue to threaten biodiversity and converts much of West Africa's natural habitats for human use. The growing population also continues to generate waste, which is often not so well managed, and this is also leading to environmental pollution, which is also threatening biodiversity within the region. Of course, there's the growing demand for protein and food, and this is leading to the unsustainable harvest and hunting of wildlife, and for the bushmeat trade, and this is all contributing to declining biodiversity within the region and indeed across the entire continent. It is therefore really important that West Africa's large and growing population is one that is made aware of the importance of its natural resources, its biodiversity, and indeed is one that is also developed with the capacity to be able to sustainably manage its biodiversity. I believe that this is part of the fundamental reasons why Dr. A.B. Leventis established in 2001 the AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute in Jos, Nigeria, in West Africa. APLORI was established in 2001 following a memorandum of understanding with the University of Jos, who is the degree awarding institution for most of APLORI's capacity building work. Also working with the BirdLife partner in Nigeria, the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, NCF, other international partners, including at the University of St. Andrews and other institutions across Europe, and indeed the host community, the Laminga community, who has graciously provided the land and the space where the institute is located, and indeed the Amuru Forest Reserve, where most of APLORI's research is carried out. APLORI was set up, I believe, with three fundamental objectives in mind. The first being to develop capacity for conservation biology, the second being to facilitate fundamental research in tropical ecology, and much more recently, we have been organizing most of our work to promote public participation and engagement through citizen science and conservation education in Nigeria and indeed across the region. Most of APLORI's capacity building work is carried out through the 12 months MSc in Conservation Biology program, alongside other internship and training initiatives. Through all of this capacity building work, some 8 to 10 young West Africans are trained every year in conservation biology since 2004. And to date, APLORI has trained over 120 young West Africans in conservation biology. Between 2004, when the first set of students started at APLORI, and to date, students have been trained, especially from Nigeria, and from 2013, other West African students have been trained at APLORI, so students from Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Of course, most of the capacity building work extending across the region has been in partnership with other partners and other institutions in West Africa. And like I said, it started with the first students from Liberia in 2013 through a collaboration with Fauna and Flora International, where one of the APLORI graduates is leading efforts, in Liberia and with the University of Liberia. And then in 2014, we had the first student from Ghana, again, as part of a partnership with the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. And since then, we have had several other students from across the region, all coming to APLORI to be trained in conservation biology at the master's level. Much recently, in 2020, we had the first students from Sierra Leone. And we continue to seek opportunities to collaborate with other partners across the region for capacity development in conservation biology. So just a quick look at what most of the APLORI graduates are currently doing, after undergoing training at APLORI. And it's really interesting to see that a good number of these graduates, so up to 30% of the over 120 graduates, continue to contribute through research to biodiversity conservation, both within and outside the region. Some 27% of these graduates are now working as lecturers in various universities and institutions across the continent, and even outside the continent. And some 19% are working in conservation NGOs, both local and international. Some are working for government agencies that are related and are working within the conservation space. And some are also teaching in secondary schools. So it's really interesting to note that some 90% of all young West Africans who have come through the APLORI project continue to work within the conservation space, both within and outside the continent. And with just about 10% going on to do something else that is perhaps not conservation related. But of course, the knowledge that they take with them continues to be shared and to be spread both within and outside the region. A lot of these graduates then go on after the Masters in Conservation Biology to complete PhDs where they get further training. A lot of these graduates have completed their PhDs both at local and international institutions across the world, with some 25% of APLORI graduates now having completed their PhDs. Some other 24% are at different stages of their PhDs. So this is, it's really remarkable to see how a lot of these APLORI graduates remain and continue to seek opportunities to better develop themselves, to be able to contribute more effectively for biodiversity conservation, both within and outside the region. At this point, I would also like to highlight and mention some graduates who are now occupying key roles and are in the driving seats at leading conservation institutions across the region. First of whom I would like to talk about is Demola Ajagbe, who was in the very first set at APLORI, so APLORI 2004 graduate, who is currently leading all of the conservation work that is ongoing at the BirdLife International Africa Regional Office. So he is a regional director bird life. We also have Dr. Mary Moloku Odozi, who is the country manager and is leading Fauna and Flora International's work in Liberia. There is also Dr. Joseph Onoja, APLORI 2008 graduate. He is leading the technical programs of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation in Nigeria. Of course, we have Dr. Hope Usieta, also of the APLORI 2008 set. He's the executive director of Leventis Foundation Nigeria, leading most of the efforts of the Leventis Agricultural School, where students are trained in biodiversity-friendly agricultural practices. There is also Dr. Imong Naoyom, who is leading the conservation work at WCS Cross River Landscape Program. And of course, it's really fitting that after 20 years of capacity development, APLORI now has one of its own as the director who is leading all of the research and conservation efforts from APLORI. So it's really interesting to see and highlight some of these key personalities in different conservation institutions across the region who have been trained at APLORI. APLORI's second objective to facilitate fundamental biological research in West Africa is mainly carried out through the provision of a well-equipped and well-staffed field station, which is based in Jos in Nigeria, for both local and international researchers who are interested in studying various aspects of tropical ecology. And so by facilitating research, both for international and local researchers, this also contributes to the capacity building work that goes on at the Institute and also enriches the MSc Conservation Biology curriculum. We have lots of researchers from all over the world who are visiting and working from the field station in Jos. And many of the research that these people are interested in, including researchers from around APLORI, include research to understand bird migration, avian population dynamics and monitoring, and of course, studies to understand how birds and other biodiversity are using habitats, how ongoing habitat fragmentation and land conversion is affecting the distribution of both birds and other biodiversity as well. Much more recently, APLORI's research is also beginning to include the use of molecular techniques to better understand the ecology of species. There is also research in disease ecology and conservation genetics. And also, quite recently, APLORI is working to consolidate and synthesize all of the information and the data that is being generated from all of this research to inform conservation policy and action through a biodiversity information development unit. All of this is contributing to biodiversity conservation in West Africa. So just a quick analysis, just to look at the trends in research at APLORI in the last 20 years. This is actually split into 3 time blocks. And you will see that in the early years, between 2004 to 2009, a lot of the projects mainly focused around carrying out species inventories to understand what bird species were found where. There were also projects to look at habitat use, to also understand the distribution of birds, also to understand how habitat disturbance is affecting the distribution and the ecology of birds within the region. And between 2010 and 2015, we see an increased diversity of projects at APLORI, and also a gradual shift in focus to also include other research areas like disease ecology, understanding physiology, agroecology, understanding community ecology, and other aspects of avian ecology. And then in the last 5 years, there has indeed been, even an increased diversity of topics that are being investigated at APLORI. We continue to investigate the habitat associations. Now there are studies to also look at urban ecology, agroecology, pollination ecology, bird-plant interactions, life history, acoustic monitoring, survey methods, and in fact, the continuing diversity of projects as APLORI continues to develop capacity to be able to investigate and ask all these questions of the environment. Just again to get an overview of the research outputs over the last 20 years of APLORI's research work, from an average of about 3 papers being published in the first 5 years, APLORI is now averaging some 15 papers, especially in the last 5 years. Of course, there are some really good years, but overall, you can see that the research output continues to increase from its humble beginnings to where we are at the moment. And now, talking about APLORI's third objective, this is much more recently. APLORI has been organizing most of the efforts that has been put to promoting public participation and public engagement for biodiversity conservation through bird watching. And all of this work is more or less being organized under the umbrella of the Nigerian Bird Atlas Project, which launched in 2015. As an APLORI initiative in partnership with NCF and with support from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. This project, which launched in 2015, had as its key objective to update information on the distribution and natural history of birds in Nigeria. Very fundamentally, it was from the beginning decided that this was going to be a project that will engage members of the public, volunteer members of the public. And the idea is that working with members of the public in a citizen science project will contribute to increasing awareness about biodiversity and the conservation issues around biodiversity within the region. And so, of course, it's interesting that a project to map the distribution of birds and to work with members of the public actually started with a map of people. And this map just shows at the onset of the project a map of where most of our graduates were found in Nigeria in 2015. And the idea was to build a community of citizen scientists around these APLORI graduates. Reason being that most of these graduates have been trained and are in the fundamentals of ornithology and conservation. And so we would build the community of citizen scientists around these graduates in what we call the bird clubs. So the idea of the bird club is that you have somebody who is trained and who is skilled, and then you build a community around this skilled personnel. And the Nigerian citizen science is essentially friends and family who you talk to about birds, you talk to about biodiversity, and you talk to about conservation, and of course other students in the natural sciences. But within the framework and the platform of a bird club, with a trained ornithologist, building this community around a trained ornithologist, you have the opportunity for skills transfer. And of course, there's then an audience, where you can then pass on the conservation message. Other benefits for organizing the citizen science community within bird clubs, as we set out to do, was to also ensure that there was a good quality control for the data that the citizen scientists were then going to generate as part of this project. Of course, within this social bird clubs, there is also opportunity for sociocultural information exchange. And of course, prior to the Bird Atlas project, there were only 2 bird clubs in Nigeria. Most of these more or less set up and dominated by expatriates working in Nigeria. But since the start of the Bird Atlas project, We have gone from just 2 bird clubs in Nigeria to over 20 bird clubs across Nigeria. And of course, the members of all of these bird clubs and all of the active citizen scientists within this project are surveying and going all over the country, generating information to update information about the distribution of birds in Nigeria. I would also like to just highlight some of the interesting developments that have come out of this project since it launched in 2015. So in 2016, members of some of the bird clubs within the southwest region of Nigeria came together to form what they called SWAT, which represents or which means Southwest Atlas Team. And the Southwest Atlas Team mainly organizes expeditions every once in a while, at least once a month, for bird surveys within the southwest region of Nigeria. And in the maps below, you can see the remarkable contribution that the Southwest Atlas Team has made to the Bird Atlas project since it started. And of course, in similar fashion, another Atlas team was formed in the northern parts of Nigeria called the Arewa Atlas Team. The Arewa Atlas Team is also a coalition of individuals in various bird clubs and nature enthusiasts within northern Nigeria who organize themselves under the umbrella of the Arewa Atlas Teams. And in similar fashion, they organize expeditions for bird surveys across northern Nigeria. And of course, much more recently, we've also had nature enthusiasts and other citizen scientists within the various bird clubs organize themselves into what is called the Southeast South-South Atlas Team, also organizing expeditions for bird surveys within the Southeast and the South-South areas, regions of Nigeria. So this is really remarkable to see all of these developments. And it's really amazing to see that from a small team of 3 people who started when the Bird Atlas project launched in 2015, we now have an active volunteer base for the Bird Atlas project that is over 230 persons strong. And from just 2 bird clubs, prior to this project, we now have over 25 bird clubs in Nigeria currently. And of course, as part of this project, Nigeria has been graded into small areas called pentads. With some 11,000 pentads, it's really amazing to see how these citizen scientists have contributed to surveying over 3,600 of these pentads since the launch of the project. And this continues to grow. And of course, this just shows the current coverage of bird surveys under the Bird Atlas project in Nigeria. But also very remarkably, it is the community that is being developed and that is growing around this citizen science initiative in Nigeria. If a quick look at the Facebook page of the Nigerian Bird Atlas project shows that we have close to 5,000 people who are engaging at different levels in the discussion that continues to grow out of what we are doing with birds and bird conservation in Nigeria. So this is really remarkable. Of course, people are engaging at different levels, but it is really amazing to see that we have a community of up to 5,000 people who are talking about conservation issues in Nigeria and also talking about bird watching and biodiversity conservation all around the framework of the Nigerian Bird Atlas project. Of course, working with other partners across the region and building on the successes in Nigeria, the Nigerian Bird Atlas project has been working with partners in Sierra Leone, and this has led to the launch of a project in Sierra Leone, and also with partners in Liberia. Another project has been launched in Liberia, and of course in Ghana. So what has developed from APLORI's capacity building work around the Nigerian Bird Atlas project is also beginning to spread across the region as we continue to see more and more young West Africans getting involved and engaged through bird watching for biodiversity conservation across the region. Indeed, APLORI continues to build capacity and also to promote conservation education, beginning from the immediate environment where the institute is located. So the Laminga community, people from APLORI will reach out and organize awareness events and conservation events around the schools, within the community, and of course, indeed, also engaging with members of the community to help them better understand the work that we do and why it is important that they also begin to connect in productive ways with the environment. There are also lots of engagements, including tree planting campaigns, and oftentimes the Institute also supports community development projects. For example, the renovation of one of the primary schools around the immediate local community. So APLORI continues to reach out through some of these initiatives to support community development efforts immediately around the Institute. Also, there are job opportunities that are being created by APLORI being located within the community. A lot of the support staff at the Institute are all from the immediate communities around the Institute. And of course, there are other sustainable development projects that APLORI continues to support within the immediate local community and around the country, including this example with the development of fuel-efficient stoves for members of the community. And so with that, I would like to conclude with this really interesting quote from Robert Swan, who says that the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. And I'm indeed really grateful, and on behalf of all staff and students of APLORI, would like to say a very big thank you to Dr. A.P. Leventis, who has not just waited for someone else to save the planet, but has decided to invest in developing capacity for biodiversity conservation in West Africa, so that we can effectively manage the natural resources within our immediate environment. I would also like to acknowledge Mr. Fuho for his immense support and guidance at APLORI, and also to Dr. Adams Jagsda, the director, APLORI, all APLORI staff and students, our wonderful host community, the Laminga community, the University of Jos, NCF, the BirdLife partner in Nigeria, and indeed all our supporters and partners, both local and international. And indeed, to you, the listener, I say thank you so much.